Please video like and subscribe this channel. The galaxy had grown silent in the sectors beyond Yalara. Worlds that once thrived with bustling cities, interstellar trade, and vibrant cultures now drifted under a shadow of despair. The Zorath Empire's reign of terror was complete. Entire colonies had surrendered, their fleets grounded, their defenses dismantled. Hope was a memory, and resistance was a myth whispered only in secret. I watched from my station aboard the orbital outpost of Teora Prime, one of the few remaining planets not yet consumed by the Zorath. My name is Commander Elias Rowe of the United Earth Defense Corps, and I had spent the last cycle monitoring the deteriorating sectors, hoping against hope that humanity or anyone else brave enough would intervene. But the void was empty. Until the first signal reached us. The message was fragmented, almost indecipherable through the layers of Zorath interference. Fleet, human, approaching, coordinates Delta 9, bring, hope. I replayed it 3 times, each repetition slicing through the heavy weight of despair. A human fleet. In the middle of the conquered sectors. It sounded impossible. Every transmission we had intercepted from Earth suggested their forces were scattered, defending only what remained of their own system. Yet here it was, a promise that change might come from the void. I alerted the Planetary Council, a mix of remaining human and allied alien representatives. Most were skeptical, tired of false hope, of dreams that had never materialized. But in the deepest corners of their hearts, I saw the flicker of belief, the tiniest spark that said perhaps the stories of humanity's resilience were not lies. And then, on the horizon, the first lights appeared. It began as a glimmer, a distant point of energy piercing the darkness of space. Then another, and another, until the formation of ships became unmistakable. They moved with purpose, cutting through the void like streaks of silver lightning. The council gasped collectively. I felt the hairs on my neck stand. It was like witnessing a myth made real. "They're real," whispered Ambassador Kellira, her azure eyes wide. "After decades, they've come." From the main observation deck, I could see the design of the lead vessel. Sleek, angular, yet built for both speed and firepower. It carried the signature of Earth's new experimental class, the Aegis Vanguard, a warship capable of interstellar dominance without relying on overwhelming numbers. And behind it came dozens more, a full fleet of ships, each crewed by humans and their allies, prepared to reclaim what had been lost. I gave the order, prepare planetary defenses, but stand down from attack. Let them make the first move. The council looked at me uncertainly. "Are you sure?" one asked. "If they misjudge, we could trigger a conflict with the Zorath before the humans arrive." "I'm sure," I replied. "They are humanity. They will not make mistakes born of fear. And if they succeed, they will change everything." The fleet approached with precision. My scanners confirmed their weapon systems were primed, but there was a strategic restraint I recognized immediately. This was not a reckless assault, it was a calculated strike. The humans had studied the Zorath. They understood the psychological as well as tactical battle. Then, without warning, the Zorath forces that had encircled Teora Prime engaged. Waves of fighter drones, capital ships, and orbital defenses launched in unison, confident that the last remnant of resistance would be crushed. But the humans were ready. The first clash was a spectacle of fire and strategy. Earth warships dove in arcs, their shields absorbing concentrated fire while energy cannons retaliated with surgical precision. The Zorath fleet, expecting disorganized defenders, was caught off guard by the humans' coordination. Even with superior numbers, the enemy's formations faltered as the human fleet exploited weak points with uncanny speed. From my station, I could see entire Zorath frigates disintegrate before they could react. Fighters swarmed capital ships like swarms of predatory insects, overwhelming automated defenses. And all the while, The human warships maintained perfect formation, communicating silently through encrypted channels I could only imagine. It was nothing short of miraculous. Amid the chaos, I received a transmission from the lead human commander, a woman whose voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. Teora Prime, this is Commander Aria Vale of the United Earth Vanguard. Stand down your planetary defenses and prepare for joint operations. We will reclaim your systems together. Her words carried authority, but also reassurance. They promised safety, yet demanded trust, an act of faith that the weary council hesitated to offer. I relayed her instructions immediately, and the council slowly complied. Shields lowered, weapon systems powered down, and the humans docked their capital ships in orbital bays designed for emergency assistance. The people of Teora Prime could hardly believe their eyes. Children ran to observation windows, elders wept quietly, and entire sectors erupted with the noise of relief and hope. For the first time in decades, humanity's allies, and perhaps humanity itself, felt like it might survive. Once docked, Commander Vale and her aides convened with our council. Their presence was commanding yet approachable. She spoke of strategy, alliances, and the steps necessary to reclaim the galaxy from the Zorath. Unlike our previous attempts at negotiation or resistance, this plan was meticulous: coordinated strikes, psychological warfare, and targeted liberation of occupied colonies. But it was not without risk. Many of the systems we needed to reclaim were heavily fortified. Entire fleets of Zorath warships awaited. And failure meant not just defeat, but annihilation. Yet the humans displayed no hesitation. "We do not fight because we must," Commander Vale said. "We fight because we have no choice but to reclaim what is ours. And we will not fail." Her conviction ignited the council, inspiring alien allies and remaining humans alike. Where there had been despair, hope now burned bright. The next cycle saw the humans deploy across multiple sectors simultaneously. I was embedded with their reconnaissance teams, witnessing firsthand how they turned what seemed like hopeless situations into strategic victories. On the moon of Valoria, a colony held under Zorath occupation, the human strike team executed a surprise orbital insertion. We neutralized surface defenses in hours and liberated thousands of enslaved citizens. The Zorath forces were stunned. None had anticipated such precision or speed. Every liberated colony sent signals of gratitude. Every success emboldened the fleet to strike further, reclaiming planets thought lost forever. Across the galaxy, the phrase human fleet became synonymous with salvation. Yet, even amidst victories, the Zorath responded with brutal countermeasures. Entire sectors were scorched, infrastructure destroyed, and civilian casualties were high. Commander Vale understood the stakes and adapted strategy rapidly, combining evacuation, deception, and force to minimize loss of life. One particular engagement near the nebula cluster of Sorith nearly cost us dearly. A hidden fleet of Zorath dreadnoughts emerged, encircling the human vanguard. Communications were jammed, and our allies began to panic. I watched Commander Vale issue orders with unflinching calm: evasive maneuvers, energy cloak deployment, and decoy satellites to disrupt targeting. Every move was calculated, every risk measured. Slowly, the tide turned. Dreadnoughts were destroyed or forced to retreat. The human fleet emerged victorious, and yet, as I observed the aftermath, I realized the true victory was not just military, it was symbolic. Hope had returned. Weeks later, the combined human-alien coalition confronted the Zorath High Council in the Alpha Void. The Council's flagship, a massive structure of dark alloy, loomed above a devastated planet. Their arrogance had not anticipated united resistance, let alone the ingenuity of humans. The battle that followed was legendary. Energy cannons pierced shields, fighters engaged in deadly dogfights, and planetary orbital defenses shifted under the combined strategies of the coalition. Commander Vale led from the front, coordinating strikes with unmatched precision. In the heart of the flagship, I was part of the boarding operation. Humans and alien allies moved together, disabling systems and neutralizing command centers. The council members were overwhelmed, outmatched, outmaneuvered, and finally, forced to surrender. It was a turning point. The Zorath Empire, once feared across dozens of sectors, began to crumble. Colonies once enslaved began reclaiming autonomy. Humanity, long thought too fragmented to assert influence, had become the catalyst for a galaxy-wide liberation. As we celebrated our hard-won victories, Commander Vale addressed the coalition. Her words were measured, but carried the weight of history. This victory is not ours alone. It belongs to every being who resisted oppression, who refused to surrender, and who believed in hope when the galaxy seemed lost. Remember this, even in the darkest void, one fleet, one people, can change destiny. I looked around at the alien allies, the liberated colonies, and the humans who had sailed from the void to reclaim hope. I realized then that the galaxy would never forget this day. Not for our battles, our tactics, or our ships, but for the courage that refused to let the light die. Years later, historians would speak of the human fleet that emerged from the void. They would write of the planets liberated, the alliances forged, and the empires challenged. And in quiet moments, survivors would remember the moment a fleet tore through the darkness, reminding everyone that even when abandoned and doomed, hope could arrive in the form of courage, determination, and a human fleet willing to strike from the void.